on the true measure of success. And I've had the privilege and benefit of evaluating competitions from chapter level up to global level, especially at the Blue Ribbon Committee. For those of you not familiar with this, IABC has its Gold Quill Awards competition. So communicators, members from around the world submit stuff. And it is a fascinating project to be a part of the judging panel that sits for 2 full days in San Francisco. And the ones that come, the entries that come in there are the best of the best from wherever they were sent. So they've been pre-judged, pre-evaluated, they won somewhere, they did something. And of what I have, it's just been fascinating to learn how communication varies around the world according to the country, according to the sophistication of the communication and public relations industry in that country, and according to the government, whether it's China or somewhere else. So I have, over the years, I have mostly focused on measurement, because the creation and the implementation, they're wonderful, they're varied, but they generally follow quite along pretty well along the scenarios that you two have talked about. The frustration on the measurement is how many entries, how many professionals still look at things like media impressions. And that really gets me, because that is meaningless if you didn't succeed in what you were going to do. And to put on the bottom of that entry that we had so many mentions or so many hits or so many of that, that's a waste of time. Judges will throw those out like that. They won't even look. I know judges who will go to the measurement first to see if it's truly been measured, rather than waste time on reading a very well done, well put together entry. Impressions bother me also, because media impressions have absolutely no meaning whatsoever. You can tell me, well, we had 5,000 media impressions. Doesn't matter. If no one bought a product, if no one used your service, if you didn't raise the money you were trying to raise, it is absolutely meaningless. So when you're looking at, even before you even start, make sure you have the right measure for that project or program you want to enter. And if you don't have a good measure for it, let's find out why. It's a great learning experience for you too. Find out why you don't have a good measure. And that's generally because when you were developing your goals and objectives, you didn't make them measurable goals and objectives. So it goes back to what you two have said and shown. You had from the beginning, you knew what you were going to do, and you knew you had to achieve it. So don't waste your time and their energy on sending things in that have no measurable anything. Output goals just drive me nuts. And that's why I go look at measurement first. If the output was, we issued 39 news releases, well, whoop-de-doo. So what? If it was another output of, we communicated with employees on 17 dates, whoop-de-doo, so what? Pay attention and start in your thinking. Start with the measurement first. Can you validate in your entry that you succeeded at what you wanted to do? If you cannot validate it, if you cannot prove it, don't start the process, because you'll be so disappointed when the judge when the entry comes back and the judge has scrawled all these notes all over it, wondering where the heck it was, where the measurement was. And there are plenty of ways to get true measurement. These ladies have already talked about it. It's always outcome, not output. Simple way to remember it, outcome, not output. If you didn't get the results you intended to, now, and that's interesting, because you can still have a great program and not succeed at it and still get an award. Because if you said in there, here's what we want to do, here's what we want to achieve, and here's how we're going to do it, things can happen it didn't achieve, but if you had the right plan and you had the right measurement in there, you could still come out a winner on this. That's the interesting part about it. So for me, everything is on measurement. Now I'm going to shift over to you and find out what you want.
I am one of those people who I look up front, what did you say you were going to do, and what on earth did you actually do?
Yep.
And a little bit on top of output versus outcome. Did you say you were going to do something specific? I'm going to increase some awareness of underwater basket weaving. Okay, but in what channel? In what way? By what percent? Who here is familiar with SMART goals? You know, if you're doing SMART, measurable, strategic, Google it. It gives you 5 really good categories. It's primarily used when you're doing your own development plans for the year or your goal setting. But it's a really great cheat sheet when you are putting together any kind of communication project, any kind of PR project, because it makes you think up front, what am I going to do and how am I going to build measurement into it? So when I'm looking at something, I want to know, okay, you increased awareness of underwater basket weaving by 15% in, you know, basket weavers in Australia. You know, I want to know exactly what segment you were targeting, and I want to know how you were able to accomplish that. And again, why is that part of your business challenge? How does that go back to the challenge that you're trying to solve for your organization, or for your client? And I hate typos. I hate grammatical errors. For those of you who've worked with me editing publications, I'm the worst for pen edits everywhere. If I see that, I'm going to give you a 0 in that category. It makes me not want to read the rest because you didn't take the time to actually proofread your entry. And you could have the best entry in the world, you could have done great things, but it says to me you're lazy, so what else did you miss in the process? And you can get really creative, like they said, about measuring value. I mean, there's no right way. When I look at an entry, I don't have a predisposition on what it is that you should be measuring your value for. If you came up with a really creative, inventive way to measure it, and it related to what your business challenge was, and it related to your strategy and what you were trying to accomplish, and it was measurable, that's fabulous. You know, that's what I'm looking for.
Some of the best things I've ever seen over the years, just been incredible programs that took the opportunity to try to change an entire culture or just wonderful things. And they were so disappointing when you get to the end. And there would be in their measurement category, gave 5 speeches. Okay, you bored people 5 times. So it's for judges, and the judging, depending on the group that gets it, they can be pretty tough. Because, I don't know, some of you may not know, your copper quill entries will not be judged here. They're going to be judged somewhere else by another IABC chapter. They're shipped off. Same thing happens in the region, at the region level. At the international level, at the Gold Quills, the finalists, or the entries that come into Gold Quill from around the world, are judged by a panel of people from around the world. It is an enlightening experience. It's a great way to learn what's going on in other countries vis-a-vis communication and public relations. But because of the volume of entries, judges will take shortcuts. They will look at the measurement first. If it's not there, they don't have time to look at it, seriously. If the measurement's there, they're going to go back and see if everything else matched up with the measurement. But when you, and I've had to arrange judging here for some sections of the first tier of Gold Quill. There's so many entries come in Gold Quill, they have to be sorted out, eliminated down to the top so many. And you're sitting there in your home, and you've brought people in, and you're looking at 60 entries in the writing category. And you've got 1 day to look at them. So what do you think we do? We're going to find every way we can to eliminate the ones that aren't up to par. So when you're writing this, keep thinking about the judging part. We judge from the bottom up, from measurement back up, and not from the top down. because it saves a lot of time. Is that a fair assessment?
Very fair. I mean, I start out, when I'm going through the checklist, everybody starts, 10 points out of 10 points for each category, and I'm subtracting as I go. I'm not adding. So I'm looking for what you did wrong versus what you did great. The other thing that is hard, sometimes you get a great work plan, but then you open it and you just get this confusing mess of samples, and you have no idea how anything relates. I mean, there's nothing wrong with putting a sticky note and saying, this related to the campaign in this way. Suddenly, you've got a work plan that says one thing, and you've got, a postcard that says something else, then you're not exactly sure how to connect the two. I know nothing about your business. I know nothing about what challenges you were facing. All I have is what I have in front of me. And if you can't connect the pieces for me, I'm just going to move on to the next entry.
It's like reading a book. If you don't catch me in the first chapter, I'm gone. And that's a great analogy to do, because we do. When you're sitting there with 60 of these in your home, and you got a day to do these. You look for reasons to eliminate, to try to get to the true, really top